Did you mean recursion?
That's built into Google, so the Google coders have a good sense of humor. So I had to put that in there. So, all right. So, what is recursion, and what do we have going on? I'm going to thank Brian Dunning that has this sample database you could download. In this case, it's like 50,000 records, but I put in 4990 in here to avoid a particular problem, which I'll be talking about in a minute. All right. So here we have nearly 50,000 records. Okay, and let's say we want to have arbitrary code that, like if we have a particular found set, like let's say we have like all the people whose last name begins with W, so there's 1,834 of them. And we want to now like grab their IDs and do something with them, right? There's many times we want to do stuff like that. So we could go to a separate layout and do a that just has the ID field and do copy records, which would then get us on the clipboard all the IDs, and then we can do paste into a global text field, and then do a go to related records or something. That's one way we could do it. Or we could write a function that uses get nth record to basically walk the list of the found sets and just accumulate the records. Okay, but we don't know how many records we have, so how are we going to really write code to do that? And so, let's see, do I have the code? Did I document the code? No, I didn't document the code, so we're actually going to look at the code. So, in terms of fields, what I have here is I have this glist and glist2 and a count list and a count list2, which are just doing a value count. And that's what's displayed here, all right? My interface skills last night were not too hot. Let me just make it. Ooh, lovely. That is just awesome. I don't know why that happened, but all right. So we have glist, glist2, and then we have the count that will show up here. All right, and then we have two scripts, getlist and getlist2, attached to those buttons. So yeah, get name IDs. So here we go. Get name IDs and get name IDs too. So in this case, it's set field names glist, grab name IDs, and I pass it an empty string and the get found count. Right? So I'm doing something with a custom function called grab names, or grab name IDs. Okay, and I'm passing it nothing and the found count. So let's take a look at that custom function and see what's going on. Actually, before I do that, let's actually do it. We have 1,834. If I push get list, count to 3, and we have 1,834 records. So that custom function did do something, and get list 2 did something. Okay, so far so good. So what's the difference between these two things? Well, let's do something like find all names that, let's see if this would work. I think S. Nope, let's try last name S. That's going to be too small. You know what, let's just look at all the IDs that are less than 12,000. Okay, so, and if we, thought I had a clear button here somewhere, but
you could have cleared the deal.
yeah. I should write a custom function to do that. So if I hit get list 2 and I've got my nearly 12,000 records here, let's see if this, it takes a little bit longer, but that worked. But if I hit get list, see if this one works. If not, I'll have to find a. This should fail. Okay. So, one case it failed, one case it didn't. Why? All right. So let's look at the function that does this first, because that's the easier function to write. It's the intuitive one to write. It's the one that we're all going to write even when we think we're not writing it. And then we'll look at this one, which works more better. This one will actually work up to the full 50,000, almost the full 50,000. Okay, and we'll talk about why it's limited to 50,000. So this grab name IDs is pretty simple. Blow it up. Oh no. Command Option plus.
I can read that now.
But it's too big.
That's fine.
Command Option minus.
I have a very sensitive screen. Okay, so in this case, we pass it a list and which record we're on. And I designed this so that I'm starting kind of from the bottom of the list, so I pass it the current number that, you know, if there's 100 in the list, I'm passing the number 100, which is what I did with the get value count in the call. And the list was empty to begin with. So the first time through, we get the current ID as get nth record of the names and be current. So this is, in this case, be current is the last record. So we get the ID of the last record in the count set. We put it in current ID. We then have a new list variable, which is the current ID, a return character, and whatever was in the list before. So we basically put it on top of what we have, right? So we put our oldest one into the empty list. And then the result is equal to either, okay, if we're on the first record of the list, we're done, right? Because we've worked our way from the last item up to the top. So we just return new list and we're done. Otherwise, we want to grab name IDs, which is the exact same function we're in, but this time we're going to pass the new list as a starting with one less, right, from the bottom. Okay, and it's going to go around and around and around and keep, you see how it's going to be adding the values to the result, recursively. And at the end, we're going to return the result. Okay, now, this works great as long as you are within 10,000 iterations through the loop. And that's because FileMaker, if you're in a non-tail recursive function, and I'll describe that in a minute, will limit you to 10,000. Because otherwise it's like, it doesn't want to go infinitely. You don't want to crash the machine. So FileMaker goes, okay, I've had enough, you're out of here. Done 10,000. And the reason it happens at 10,000 is because if you look at it, we're actually stacking the result and the result and the result, like this function and the result of the function and the result of the function, and we're building this giant call stack of all 10,000 iterations. When we finish the very last one, then we have to bubble our way back out to get out of it, okay? Because it's still hanging on to this function, because it's still referencing the function this way. Okay, I'm probably not explaining that as clearly as I should. See if I can do this better. Okay, we're not on the first one of the list, so we need to do it again. Okay, then we're not on the last one, so we need to do it again. But we're not holding on to the full result. It's like we're still referencing what we had from the previous call, so we can't release it. By comparison, if we look at the tail recursion one, okay, in this case, we have 3 values that we're passing, not just 2. We're passing in the field that we're working with, how many we found, which was like the count, and then what's our current result. So we're not hanging on to the result in the script, we're passing the result out to then be processed again. So that the function isn't holding on and accumulating everything. So in this case, we're saying we're doing it, if the count is greater than 0, we pass it the field, the found minus 1, and then this, which is the current result from the previous cycle through. And if it's not empty, then we put a paragraph return, because we don't want an empty return character at the very beginning of the list. And then we get the nth record. So it's a slightly different structure to the code, but by doing it this way, we are never hanging on to anything in any given cycle through this function.